Hello and welcome to the One More Thing podcast. And today I am rejoined by a repeat visitor to the show. It's Cleveland Watkiss. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, Dave. Sorry, I've just got something. I just got something in my throat here, but I'm good. Yeah, I'm very well, thanks.
Excellent. How was your weekend? I saw you were performing an a cappella and kind of was
Oh,
it a show over the weekend?
yeah, it's a residency that I've been doing with another fellow vocalist, Randolph Matthews. A project where we explore the voice, everything to do with the voice, and we get to do it in the West End at the
Wow.
Crazy Cogs, right in centre Piccadilly, and we've been doing it. Done about 4 events there, and they all go down really well.
Amazing. What type of crowd do you get for that? I guess it's a really, really interesting, pretty diverse range
It's
crowd.
business people, tourists, fans. It's really diverse. You never know who's going to show up.
Wow. Wow. So how
And
do you do that? Yeah, I guess you've got to be like DJs there and read the room and see what level people want to be entertained at in a way there.
well, I mean, we've got like a kind of a little arc of things that we might touch on, and it just all depends on how we feel in the moment with with
Yeah.
with, with what sort of comes out, you know. So, but as I say, it's most of it's pretty much 99% of it is based on improvisation, just like what happens in the moment.
Oh,
And
wow.
we both have our looping machines, so we loop ideas and create soundscapes, and it's quite interactive. So we speak to the people and ask them things and loop things, and get them to come. Some people might want to come. There might be singers there, they come up. Like, for instance, there was a couple of vocalists that joined us this weekend. There were
Wow.
a couple of improvisers that were based here. One's Italian, the other one's is where's he from? I can't remember now. But yeah, it was uh, really creative fun, and like medicine music.
Yeah.
We come away from those kind of gigs like really sort of healed and charged and ready to take on the world again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Creatively rejuvenated in a way.
Yeah,
And
there you go.
in the words of kind of GQ, like literally anything could happen then in one of those
There you go.
performances. You don't know
Exactly.
what's going to happen. And this is what I love about, like, it's a bit of a cheesy segue, but this is what I love about having conversations with you is that anything could happen. Like, the range of performances and your musical vocabulary and what you do every single day is so diverse and different. Your calendar, your schedule must be amazing and just keep you really refreshed because it can range anything from, kind of hosting a metalheads party to doing something as experimental and avant-garde as that, really. And I think that's probably what keeps you really excited and inspired, isn't it?
I wouldn't have it any other way, Dave. I mean,
Yeah.
last week, before doing these improv vocal sessions, I was doing a James Baldwin project
Oh,
with
wow.
yeah, we were a composer, bassist friend of mine, Neil Charles. He had written some um, music based on James Baldwin's essays from a book called Dark Days. It's only a small book, but it's quite a poignant and kind of relevant book.
Yeah.
And he had written some music around some of the essays from the book.
Oh,
And
wow.
we had 4 dates around the country performing the music with a quartet, double bass, drums, piano, and voice. And yeah,
Wow.
that was really heavy in terms of how it all came together and how it all worked. And again, a lot of it's based on improvisation. I mean, we have these themes, but we can go anywhere with them.
Yeah.
And we can go anywhere with the soundscapes as well. Everyone's pretty much um, master of their instruments, and so it goes into again, just like from a whisper to an explosion, like.
Oh wow, I
Yeah.
love that.
So I don't know if you know Cafe Otto in Dorset. Do you know the
No, I
Cafe
don't, I'm
Otto?
afraid. No,
All right.
no.
Well, it's a venue. It's a great venue for live music and kind of experimental music as well. A lot of international artists come in and do various types of music. Or mainly improv. Improv stuff. Me and my friend Talvin Singh, the great tabla player, we were there a couple of
Wow.
weeks ago. We went to see an Asian ensemble experimented with film and soundscapes. And I'll tell you, it was absolutely mind blowing because the visuals for this event was just, they were using AI, but it was like, that's how you use AI. It was like they were using it in such a beautiful, creative way with the sounds that they were making from their various electronic equipment. And we was just, me and Talvin was standing there with our tongues on the floor, just thinking, this is so creative and such a great use of AI. Um,
Wow.
so this is a space where we presented the James Baldwin project for 2 nights, 4 shows, two shows per night. So we did 4 shows there, and again, it was the kind of launch of this mini tour that we did
Wow.
around the UK. So yeah. I mean, like I say, I mean, I love doing all these different things. And the other thing is, I never usually know what I'm doing from day to day as well. It's like, all right, I need to be here tomorrow. All right, I need to be there tomorrow. I
Brilliant.
don't, I don't, I kind of, I like it like that. I like being present and being in the moment.
Yeah, 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 completely. And then just allowing yourself to immerse in that moment then and not really kind of thinking about, right, okay, I've got to prepare for this, so I've got this tomorrow, or I've got this later
No,
on
because
or
usually,
tonight.
usually the preparation's already done. So I know, right, okay, well, next week I'm doing blah blah. But in terms of the day to day things, like, oh, okay, right, I'm, you know, kind of
Brilliant.
just ride with it as it comes, and yeah.
Yeah. And already within 10 minutes, you've mentioned, kind of stuff like Talvin Singh and Baldwin and all these incredible names, really, and just kind of quite casually as part of your kind of your musical explorations, really, in that type of way. It makes me jealous when I hear about venues and spots like that. It makes me jealous that I live in the country. It's one of the only things that makes me jealous that I don't live in a city and have
Mm,
access to events like that where you can just soak up something. So I'd imagine they're very intimate events, really, where they
very
could only
intimate, yeah.
happen in a city where there's enough people there to kind of to be able to fill a venue or that type of space, really. But I feel that's the one benefit is culture of living in a city full of different people, really, isn't it?
Yeah, London's pretty much that way. It's always been that way, really. The melting pot. Everyone comes to London. There's always stuff happening, interesting, creative stuff happening there. International DJs and artists, musicians, they come there for the festivals, for the to break things as well. There's, so many artists come there to launch their careers, to
Yeah,
London. So yeah, it's that kind of
completely.
space.
Speaking of London, though, the last post of yours that I saw that I was really intrigued about was a post you'd just been to an exhibition recently, which had a display of loads of fascinating equipment and speakers and lots of like images and stuff like that as well, and documents from the Four Races, which is one of a hugely influential club in two different kind of eras of London's musical
Mm,
history, really, and
that's
cultural
right.
history in the kind of 60s and 70s and possibly 80s as well as a reggae club.
Hmm.
And then obviously turning into Labyrinth, then one of the kind of early phenomenal kind of rave spots, really, in the acid house and hardcore movement in the late 80s onwards, really. You've been to an exhibition there, but it was quite unusual, wasn't it? Tell me all about that.
It's unusual because it was hosted. It was a reggae exhibition. A friend of mine, Colin, he archives a lot of the reggae music and history in the UK. and he was invited to hold an exhibition at Scotland Yard, of all
Scotland
places.
Yard. This
Scotland,
blows my mind.
new Scotland Yard. And so he called me up and he said, "Look, you know, we're doing this exhibition. Is Scotland Yard?" I was like, "Scotland Yard." I said, "Okay, I'll come." You know, I didn't quite get it, you know. But then, I mean, when I got there, he had all these artifacts on display. You know, he had a valve amplifier that was made by Percival Miller. Percival Miller is also known as Metro Downbeat, who built the amplifiers for people like Shaka and many of the big sound systems
Wow.
that came out that existed in the 60s and 70s in the UK. So that was just to see that was just mind blowing
Wow.
because it ties deeply into my own history in that Percival Miller, he knew my dad before they came over to England, and
Wow.
he told me, and sadly he passed away 2 or 3 years ago now. But I had an interview and I sat down and spoke to him, and he spoke to me about my dad, just my dad's early life. He said, "Oh, your dad." He said, "Oh, your dad used to roll with Duke Reed," and I was like, "What did you say?" You know,
And he
Duke
didn't know
Reed is
this.
like, I didn't know this information. He said, "Oh, your dad used to roll with Duke Reed," and you know, Duke Reed had one of the first sound systems in Jamaica. Went on to form the famous record label, the Trojan record label. So it just
Wow.
when I heard this story that my dad, you know, so when my dad came in here in '55, he and Metro, they set up the first house parties, blues parties in East London. You know, my dad provided
Wow.
the food and the clientele and everything, and he provided the sound. And he's telling me this. He said, "Oh, it's your you know, it's your dad. Your dad's the one that started these first parties in East London back in the late '50s."
Oh, wow.
I didn't
Were
know
you?
this. I didn't
Whoa.
know. I remember as a tiny little kid. I remember running around the house. I remember weekends. There was always these parties in the house, and I was, you know, just running between feet and looking up and just, you know, everyone's doing their dance, you know, their scale, whatever they're doing, and yeah, I just remember those. I remember those moments
Wow.
of music, fun, dancing, and but yeah, he told me that no, it was he was a pioneer in that way. In it,
Bonkers. And your
yeah,
dad never
totally.
really kind of spoke to you at length about this or anything,
He
or?
passed away when I was 9.
Ah,
Yeah, he
right.
passed away.
Wow.
My
Wow.
dad
So he
passed away
wasn't
when I was
able
9.
to.
No, I wasn't able. I
Wow.
wasn't able to get any information. My mum wasn't forthcoming. Jamaican mums don't talk about the past. They just don't. You know? So it was really hard to speak to my mum about anything to do with
So
my
to speak to
pops.
Percival when you got to speak to him, then that must have been a mind-blowing revelation
That
then to
was
hear that was
just, you know, he told me that, oh, your dad used to go to Ronnie Scott's and all those clubs, you know, used to go with him at the West End. He loved Oscar Peterson. And I was like, okay, now you just start to understand why you do what you do and why you're into what you're into. Because my dad, you know, the whole DNA connection, you know, just it runs through the blood and through the.
that's given me tingles. That's given me goosebumps because without knowing you followed his path, you've done things which, you know, like you, it's, yeah, like you say, it's in your blood, it's in your system. You've been following this path without realizing that your dad had dug some of that foundation, had huge parts of that foundation himself there. That's phenomenal, really, isn't it? That's literally given me goosebumps. To have learned that must have helped you make sense of yourself and why you've chosen certain things that
Exactly.
you have, really, in that way.
Exactly. It just connects, you know, you just
Wow.
understand
So I want to go
many
back to
things.
that era eventually again, but carry on telling me about the exhibition then that was in New Scotland
Okay,
Yard.
so the exhibition, um, there was various dignitaries there that spoke about um, how they wanted to kind of be in Black History Month as well. You know, they wanted to kind of bridge and have a relationship with the Black community again. And so I think it was all part of that too. You know,
Right.
just like, look, let's look at a way of how we can reconnect or connect with the community again, and that, I think that was their way of reaching out.
Right.
But it was a great exhibition. You know, there's loads of different things on display that I hadn't seen before. There was a book. I don't want to say too much about this book because I actually want to post about it, but I will say that it's one of those books that when it gets out into the mainstream, it's gonna blow people's minds. It was
Wow.
written by a Jamaican that came here in 17 something or another. I'm just gonna leave it there. I don't want to go.
17.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't want to go into it, but it's really, really powerful information. And he had, the host had this book, and he was telling me the story. And Dave, is a deep story. I don't want to drop it all right now, but
No, no, no. This.
and he was telling me about this book, and I said, "Well, where's the book?" And he said, "Oh, it's in a case underneath the." I said, "What?" I said, "Get that book and put it on display, man." I said to him, "What do you mean it's underneath in a bag in a case?" I said, "That we need to see it." So I said, "I'm not moving until you find that book," and he did. And I took some pictures and I took some names, and I was like, "Oh my gosh. Wow,
Wow.
wow, 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 wow." But anyway, for another post.
Yeah, okay. That's a cliffhanger and a half. To
Yeah,
go
oh
back,
man.
so I learned something that didn't blow my mind at all, but it's something that I find fascinating and will help me on another project that I'm working on. And that is your relationship with Eastman. So I only learned relatively
Oh,
recently. I'm working with Eastman. I'm helping him write his book. He's been telling me
nice.
all about his life. He's an amazing guy. Like I don't need to
Oh,
tell you that because you grew up with him, didn't you? And I think you went to school with him.
we went to the same school in East London. Um, we had a sound system together for a time as
Yeah.
well in our teenage years. And it's so not bizarre, but it's just really uncanny that when I first heard jungle music, um, in the streets on the radio in East London. You can't if you're living in East London in the 90s, man. It's
It
just
was
gonna come.
everywhere.
It's coming at you from every angle. So being the jazz musician, jazz nerd that I am, and experimentalist, I'm like, well, what's this music, you know? And I'm just like, I'm speaking to my daughter about it. She said, oh, this is jungle. I said, what? She said, oh, this is Cool FM. I did some research. I was like, Eastman. Uh, Eastman. I was like, oh, wait a minute. So then I just started to connect all the dots around that sort of time, and in terms of, oh, this is where sound system culture has morphed to
Yeah.
in the 90s. You know, it's now jungle music. You know, I went to one of the raves in Tottenham. What's it called again? What's this place? Ah, Roller Express.
Brilliant. You
Roller
had some
Express.
help there.
Got a little nudge there. Yeah. Roller Express in Tottenham. I went there. That was the first rave I ever went to. I went there, and I saw. I think it was Navigator, 5 and I think GQ might have been there. I saw this guy's MCing. I was, anyway, everything just started to fall into place. Eastman actually set up Cool FM with
Smurf.
a friend of ours sound system.
Oh,
This I
wow.
understand. Yeah, I understand it was from Emperor. Emperor Sound System was a fantastic sound system, local sound system in East London. That I used to worship, man. After school, you know, the parties on the weekends. You know, he played in
Yeah.
the Stamford Hill area, but I understand that Eastman got his equipment just when he initially set up Cool FM. So again, just all these little things like connecting and
Yeah,
and just like just understanding that its roots is coming out of sound system culture, as we know. That's the kind of foundation of
yeah,
how it morphed into jungle and drum and bass.
definitely. And I
Of
think
course, other
like,
influences too, but the meat of it all was coming out of the bass and the drums, drum and bass. Sound system culture.
massively, massively. I mean, like Eastman's story and your era, your generation in particular, tell that roots, that history of sound system culture and show that lineage better than kind of generations that followed because you were rooted in that, like that initial kind of burst, the Windrush arrival of multicultural London in that type of way. And his stories, like what I love about Eastman's stories and his life in general, it goes from this kind of post-war London where he's got stories of playing around in the rubble and stuff like that, where the regeneration of London was still very much happening, and he tells these stories of real poverty that I can link back to stories from my grandparents and stuff like that, and then going through this huge, like massive, completely like game-changing societal explosion of kind of the Windrush immigrants arriving and stuff like that, how different school was for him compared to his parents and previous generations and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And then his stories when you talk about the blues and stuff, and from Eastman, like he was one of maybe two or three white guys who had a sound within London. And so the different kind of struggles he faced then wanting to explore the sound and represent the sound, but his fascination with it and going to school, kind of it was Brookhouse School, I believe. I think
Brookhouse
that's right,
School,
isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
the thing is that when you're talking about those times, it was all community. Everything was like, you know, you had these different communities, and
Mm,
if you went to school and you're a white kid and you're hanging around, black kids, you're gonna you're gonna get involved in the moment, in the culture,
yeah.
in
You're going to
everything that's
inspire
happening.
each other,
You're gonna
totally.
exactly, so that's that's a given for a lot of kids, growing up in those times, and even in the 80s and 90s, kids going to school together, they roll together, they start doing things, they start making music together, and you know, Hackney was and still is to a degree, very cosmopolitan. It's
Mm,
just like again, I've said in a previous interview that you look at that stretch from sort of Camden, like all the way up to Whitechapel, and you'll find every nationality in the world in that couple of mile stretch. You
yeah,
you, you will. I've seen it myself.
yeah,
So the music, at some point, the music has to reflect
yeah.
the culture, the environment, and I think that's what we see, especially with this what we call jungle drum and bass. This original indigenous music that's come out of the culture, the people.
Definitely
The
out of
the
that
the,
fusion, really. But
the fusion, yeah.
his description of the blues parties and just dancing, going out and dancing to rare groove, and all of these different movements that happened before the turn drum and bass was even, long before 10, 20 years before electronic music kind of really had that phenomenon. His descriptions of blues parties and going out and dancing, this is going to make me sound a little bit ignorant, but it made me realize that my generation wasn't the first generation to go out raving. Like his descriptions were like, this is the original, this is where raves began. And I mean, raving itself is a Jamaican term, isn't it? Like, blues parties, you go
Absolutely,
raving and stuff
absolutely.
like
You
that.
go raving, exactly. Exactly that. My dad was raving in the 50s when he came here. You know what I'm saying? So no, it's not new. It's a continuum. I always call it. It's a continuum. It's always nothing exists in a vacuum.
Yeah,
Everything is coming from somewhere else. It's just that you might not be there yet. You might not know where it's coming from. I mean, that's why history is important. To and research and just to get your own understanding. You know, it comes from somewhere. The music, you know, it's morphed into where we are now. You know, with the aid of technology, it
Mm.
moves. You know, it moves and it morphs and it develops.
Definitely. I mean, on that note, I do these kind of daily vlog updates on YouTube, and I made one which it was way more baitier than I ever wanted it to be. What I wanted to do is put out a message of love. But I essentially said that all of your favorite music, and I was talking specifically to fans of drum and bass and jungle and anything that One More Thing covers, kind of forgot that when you put something up on YouTube, anybody can come out of the woodwork and comment on it, including people who don't even know what you're talking about. And I said that, you know, basically, let's love and celebrate the fact that all of our favorite music stems from black music, is of black origin. Suddenly, loads of people who don't subscribe to the channel have never appeared in the comments before started coming up and talking about classical music. There's a lot of racists, a lot of horrible knuckleheads, but I still stand by the fact that everything contemporary now, be it through that fusion that we've just talked about, but also crude appropriation, most things that are enjoyable, like music and kind of art, stem from black origin and black culture. Was I correct in saying that, or was I being too baity and coming from the wrong place in that way? And that's such a huge question to ask. Which
Well, the thing is that, I mean, if you're talking about reggae music, if you're talking about jazz, if you're talking about soul music, if you're talking about all these genres, all these music that come out, let's take it all the way back to Africa, because, you know, it's music that's come out of folk that were placed or displaced around the globe. So Cuban music, Brazilian music, Jamaican music, American music, Black British. I mean, it's all coming out of the people, the folk from Africa, you know, that were displaced in the West. So yeah, I mean, it's coming from those people. But now that's not to say that other folk. Look, nobody owns music. You know, music is for everybody. But at the same time, again, when you're looking at history, you've got to acknowledge where it's coming from. It's really important to do that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, no, nobody has ownership of music, but it's important to acknowledge, like, you know, the pioneers, you know, the Chuck Berrys, you know, the Charlie Parkers, the Duke Ellingtons.
Yep.
You know, you know, yeah, just all these musicians that founded these musics and these sounds. They're black. Hello.
Completely. And came from, like, most of them, you know, sort of especially something like blues or kind of any of these movements came from really oppressive, horrible contexts as well. You know, when you kind of read stories of, you know, kind of a lot of these have happened, but right down to blues parties as well happened because black people weren't allowed in venues and things like that. So you made your own parties in that type of way. These movements have come about through circumstance, and those circumstances are never nice, really, and we have a long way to go.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's we're in a capitalist society, and you know, those that have the money are gonna capitalize is the word,
yeah,
and take it somewhere else because they've got the power structures, they've got the finances to do that. And that's what happens. That's what you see with culture. It gets brought into the capitalist society, and then it's off. It morphs into something else. But having said that, there's always a remnant.
Yeah.
There's always people that don't sell this wares. They hold on to them, and it stays a certain way, you know. Um, and hats off to everyone that keeps the underground alive, keeps the origin of the thing
Yeah.
pure, and not let it kind of run into whatever, because once it gets into the hands of the capitalists, it can becomes anything. We
Yeah.
see that in drum and bass. Just let's go there.
Yeah.
That's what we see. That's what we see in jungle music today. Taking it and they're running with it and making it something else. That's what it is. If you love that stuff, what's being made from that world, go ahead. That's for you. Ain't for me necessarily.
No, no. And I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen you post about this a lot. And luckily, and the last time that you and I saw each other in the real, in reality, on the planet, was at Sun and Bass, where there are still pockets, and it was really refreshing. I don't know how you felt when you came back from there, but sometimes I get so jaded with the gentrification of drum and bass, and the commercialization, and the celebration of all the things that don't excite me about the music at all. Um, I feel quite jaded, and then I go to something like Sun and Bass, and I have lovely conversations, and I meet people, and I hear the best forms of music. It's like there is still a huge contingent of people who are doing everything they possibly can to keep that essence, and to keep that purity alive. And while that counter movement continues, that culture, that actual culture continues, there is some type of level of hope, I guess, really, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, I'll go to Sun Base every year. Been going there every year for the last, I don't know, 12 years, maybe 10. Yeah, quite a few years now, kind of lost count. But again, it's one of those places where you can go and just really listen to the cutting edge side of the music, you know. Um, Everyone brings their sort of latest dub plates, and it's a great environment as well. It's a family kind of environment as well. People bring their families, and
Yeah,
it's a
yeah, yeah.
beautiful. It's
You were with your
beautiful.
family, weren't you? You took your
Exactly,
family along.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Every year, and you see, you see such a beautiful um, landscape as well, because Sardinia, I think a lot of people miss out. I feel with Sardinia, because they usually stay in one location, but if you're lucky enough to get a car, or I don't know, a bus, just see the whole. We go all around Sardinia most every year, and just the beauty of that place is beyond the beyond. So it's a great kind of 7 day uh, escape back into the realness of what this music's about, and what it's sounding like, and where it's going, because that's where you go there. I call it like the drum and bass, the drum and bass mecca. It's where you're gonna it's where the real drum and bass salvation is.
yeah,
That's where it's there. Doc Scott's there every year. All Mark System. All the great DJs come there, and even if they're not playing, they come, they pass through. Because
yeah,
it's such a rap. DJ Rap was there, and DJ Ron were there this year, and they loved it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
They were there. Nice
I mean,
chat to
that's a
them.
sign, isn't it? Yeah, DJ
It's a
Zinc was
big
there, Rap
sign.
was there,
Seeing
Ron was there, and they're not even on the lineup. They're literally there to see their
they're
friends, to
there.
see their family. They're there for the music and the culture, and because they know that that's the spot. That's the spot for the
Because
week,
it's
really.
a lovely vibe. It's free of all the other stuff. Just all the politics, or
Yeah, and what's
it's just it's
interesting is
mm.
they've maintained that freedom by not creating kind of any specialist areas. There's no roped off areas or anything like that. So everybody's just in
there's
it
no
together in that
there's no
type of
roped
way.
off areas. There's no hierarchy. There's no. It's not about, oh, this famous DJ or this famous MC. It's none of that. It's just about the music and the fun and just hanging out and just having meaningful conversations with people that you admire and you love and respect. And and it actually reminds me of the Blue Note in the sense that it reminds me of the Blue Note in the sense that the Blue Note was extremely intimate. Did you ever go to Blue Note?
I didn't. I'm a little bit too
Okay.
young, and I was 200
Okay.
miles away in Wales, so I was raving in quarries and random
Right.
places in the hills.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
cities and stuff.
Blue Note had that intimacy where you could actually come up to the DJ face to face, like me and you, and just you can actually look at the record that he's playing on the deck. It had that intimacy. You can see, you can get to your head like that to see the name of the record. Like, I saw that many, many, many times. So Son of Bass has that kind of intimacy where everyone's just there for the same thing. It's just like we love this music. We love the atmosphere. The sound, the vibe that they create there. It's just really special. It's very, very special.
Yeah, you mentioned Mark System just now very, very briefly, and I still stand by. I mean, I wasn't even at this particular Sun and Bass, but I listen to the mix every week, every single week, at least twice.
Oh wow!
You and Mark closing off the Gazebo, 2019 or 2018, I think it was.
19,
and it's so good that Fabio even comes on the mic and says, "This reminds me of 91, 92. Like that was, you were all witness to something incredibly special." And it was everything, I can't listen. Some of those tunes I hear independently away from that mix, and I hear your lyrics over the top and you freestyling over the top. It's that important. But I know that mix got you a meal. You got fed really well at We Out Here Festival, didn't you?
You know that story.
Yeah.
Wow, that's right. Oh, let's tell that story. I mean, so yeah, I'm at We Out Here Festival. And Giles's epic festival he puts on every year. And it's time to get some food, and I'm like, okay, so where can I find some like vegan food, some really good vegan food, I've got a gig, I've got a Metalheadz gig in the evening, I think it was it XRY or one of the places. And I've just finished my gig, and I'm looking for some food before I leave. So someone says, "Oh, you need to go through this little park here, and you'll find like all the vegan stuff there, that there." So anyway, I'm walking through there, and I see this kind of, I see a couple of friends actually, and they said to me, "Oh, if you want, this spot here is really good for food, and especially if you like vegan food." I was like, "Oh, I'm there." I'm queuing up. We're in a queue, and the queue is like 2 miles long. Dave, I kid you not, all right. But
it's usually a sign that it's good food, though, isn't it?
Right, and everyone in the queue is like, "No, just wait. This is the spot." I was like, "Okay, I'll wait." As I'm getting closer to the counter, this guy looks at me and he says to me, "Are you Cleveland Watkiss?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, mate." He said, and then he called out to his lady and said, "And it's the truth. We play your tape every day. We're listening to that tape that you and Mark System did. We listen to it all the time." I was like, "Oh, wow." And he goes, "What do you want? Everything's on the house."
Amazing.
Like, okay. But yeah, no, he was just waxing about that. Yeah, that again, it's one of those moments that was captured live and is there for all posterity, and I always treasure that gig, man, because it was very special and very again, Mark's he's one of these producers that you don't really hear his tunes everywhere. Like if you want to hear Mark System, you got his music, you got to go and see Mark System, basically. And then there's something there's something special about that, having those. Again, that's what I'm saying. It's like you got all these kind of. I mean, Randall, bless his soul. Randall used to Randall used to. Oh my God, right when Randall come to Son of Bass every year, he's always got tunes that he's breaking. You know, you hear like tunes that you're hearing them for the first time, but not just, but real, you know, Vanton Black. We heard that for us at Sun and Bass, if I remember. You know, just tunes that go on to be like huge classics that you won't hear for another 2, 3, 4 years. You know,
Yeah.
Randall would break those tunes. You know, Storm and yeah, just again, you know, I can't talk enough about Sun and Bass. You know, look, you know,
Brilliant.
when we leave there, we can't wait until the next year. We're like, oh man, you know, we're planning for next year already. You know,
Brilliant.
it's
Who
like that.
inspired you this year? Was there any particular kind of standout or anything like that this year for you?
You know, always does it for me is Loxy.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Loxy just like every time I hear that guy playing a Sun and Bass, like every year is just like, wow, this guy is just like again, you know,
Yeah.
he's just bringing. And what I love about Loxy as well is that you know because you know we came out of the Blue Note. You know, Loxy was one of the DJs at Blue Note back in the 90s, and he just stayed true, man, to his vision, like from day dot. And it's just been developing it and developing it and developing it and developing it and honing it and honing it.
Yeah.
And it's just that it's such a great place now. His sound, his beats, and you know, just the journey that he takes you on with the
Yeah.
sound. It's not this like, you know, it's very him, you know.
Yeah. You could spot
And
a Loxy set a mile off, I think, in that type
yeah,
of way.
yeah, you know, and no, yeah, he just always blows me away, Loxy.
He came up. That's a
Um,
really cool. Actually, that's a very fitting description because one of my favorite descriptions of that he's ever given to me in an interview about his work and about how he sees himself as a DJ is that he sees himself as a kind of professional sniper. And he turns up for the job. He goes in, he'll assassinate you, and then off he goes. And he's, you know, he's even got the equipment and stuff like that. Man in black just rocking up
that
in the shadows.
is,
And I still got goosebumps from that now. Like,
you know,
yeah,
Loxy, that's exactly how he is, man. You come into, you know, the amount of times I've seen him play and just thought to myself, Sun and Bass in particular, and just thought to myself, oh my gosh. Well, there's two assassins, really.
yeah,
There's two assassins, him and Doc Scott.
yes, yeah,
Doc Scott always comes and just blazes up the place with tunes. You know, so
definitely.
yeah, it's a good place. Everyone should get there. Anyone that loves drum and bass, that should be on your bucket list,
I've done a little
without doubt.
post about this because it put me off for years because it was so expensive and I kind of had to wait to be invited out there as a guest, as a worker, as a professional who was part of the, you know, the event, because I'd never really been able to afford it. But when I spoke to, because there is a contingent of people who they live a very different life. They have a different level of income that I do. And that's great for them. Like, that's amazing that they can go to these events and travel all the way from Australia every year. Like, I've never been to Australia once in my life, but that's, you know, that everybody's got their own personal finance things. But then I spoke to a lot of other people and then mate, I save up for this, you know, right from the minute I come home, I'm saving up for the next year and they will do it. They'll cook in their apartment. And I did it completely sober and just had my food allowance. So just cooked in my little apartment and stuff. You can do it a lot cheaper because I think the price puts anybody off when you're going away to another country and the cost of living and the way things are and stuff. But even if you get to go once, if you save up for it, like you say, that this is, you know, so it's a proper bucket list destination if you really care about the music, isn't it?
Yeah, it's your yeah, it's one of those things that yeah, that just highly recommended. You know, you gotta go. You gotta find, and it's not. I mean, expensive. I mean, it's all relative again, isn't it? It's kind of like
Yeah.
what do you spend your money on, sort of things. Yeah, what do you
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
spend your money on?
Totally.
It's very it's worth it. You know, it's worth it if you love the music. The other thing is, Dave, is that this blows me away as well. Just you find people from all over the world there.
Yeah.
all over the world. I mean,
Thousands and
you know,
thousands and thousands of miles. Like,
India,
yeah,
India, you know, Australia, Canada, America, all over Europe. They all come and speak to me, and I'm like, "Where are you from?" They're telling me they're from here, da, 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 Russia. It's just like, wow, wow,
yeah,
wow. It's just not in terms of festivals. It's not massive, you know. It's not thousands and thousands of people, you know. It's what is it? It's like a couple of thousand at the
a few
tops.
thousand. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you know what I mean. And you know, you just have people there from all over the world, and I just find that really endearing and fantastic. You know that people come to this festival. They save up and they come from all over the world to this place. Wow.
Yeah. And I'd say it's unique in that type of way, really, in terms of the size of it, the size of it, but the breadth of it, like the actual
Mm,
kind of global reach of it in that way.
mm.
And to take it back to you and your career and what you've been up to recently, I mean, Sun and Bass was a little week oasis in amongst a schedule full of all types of gigs. And I think around about that time, you were also doing like the Sun Ra reimagined stuff as well. So, you know, that kind of week of like the most purest, most futuristic upfront drum and bass, but in and around all types of other gigs doing other types of music. And yeah, I mean, I'm intrigued that that wonderful contrast that we keep coming back to really in that way. But yeah, I was reading a lot about the kind of Sun Ra reimagined gigs, and I think the We Out Here one might have actually been a
That was the
Sun Ra
first
one,
one.
wasn't it? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that
So
that
tell me all about that and educate me about Sun Ra, because Sun Ra is still I dip in every now and again. I've read more about Afrofuturism than I've listened, if you know what I mean. I understand the importance of Sun Ra, but he's one of those artists who's got such a mind-blowing body of work that it's hard to know where
oh
to start. You
well,
know, so teach me,
if
educate me.
okay, so Sonra um came up in the in kind of 40s, 50s jazz era,
Mm,
playing traditionally, you know, in bands and orchestras, piano, and but then started to explore this concept of Afro futurism, and just all things to do with intergalactic space, the sun, the moon, the planets, and that he's from there. He's from there, and his music is salvation for Black people. You know, this is the way. This is the way. You know, stuff that was going on in America at the time, and
mm.
you know, he was just talking about liberation. You know, and freedom through music, the power of music. Um, I actually was fortunate enough to see. I was caught Sun Ra in the 80s at Hackney
Wow.
Empire. Yeah, I was fortunate to see the orchestra in the 80s at Hackney Empire. And again, just being the kind of experimental creative nerd I am, you know, just started to get into his music, you know, listen to his recordings and albums and just, yeah, just again, just fell it, you know, it's a whole other side of jazz because it's deeply experimental, especially the electronic side of Sun Ra. It's very open, it's extremely open, you know, to anything can happen.
Yeah.
I was commissioned by the National Youth Jazz Orchestra, which is kind of like the biggest jazz organization in the country, to get involved in this project, to lead it, to MD it with their students. And I initially, when it was time to put a set of the music together, to start looking at the music, I don't know where to start, Dave. You know, I'm looking, you know, I thought, okay, let me just. So what I did, I spent like about 3 or 4 weeks just listening to on just going to on Apple Music and listening through to things, and anything that caught my ear, I just made a note of it, put it in a folder. Dun, 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 dun. So I had I don't know, I have probably about 200 pieces in the folder. You know, I need like 7 pieces for a set. Yeah. So, you know, 200, 100, 50, 25, you know, just narrowed it down to a
Mm.
set. I've got a set of music. But then I wanted to put a different spin on it, of course. You know, I wanted to kind of have some sort of D&B elements in there and throw in some breaks and things like that. Um, and that's what we did. You know, we just looked at how we could bring it. It's like okay, if Sun Ra came to London now, what would he be doing?
Yeah.
I'm trying to imagine it like that, you know.
How do you
So
imagine he would have interpreted jungle had he been around, especially around that kind of time, which we were talking like in the 90s when it really blew up and you couldn't avoid it in London?
I think that well, the sampler. Can you imagine what he would be doing with a sampler? I mean, because look what he was doing with electronics back in the 60s and you know
Yeah.
70s. He was inside the instruments. He was literally inside there. You know, like pulling it apart back
Brilliant.
then.
Yeah.
So what he would have done with a sampler,
Decades ahead of people.
decades ahead. You know. So what would he have done with a sampler and beats? You know, like you know. So yeah, just trying to reimagine or imagine that, you know, and so we put a set together for We Out Here Festival, and we did it, and it was great, you know, it really um people that were there, they loved it, got really great feedback, and now we've been invited to for a spot at the London Jazz Festival in November, 23rd of November at Milton Court,
Wow.
just behind the Barbican. Beautiful space, Milton Court. I don't know if you know Milton Court.
No, I don't, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's just behind the Barbican, and so yeah, this is part of the London Jazz Festival. It's actually this event is a free event. So if this goes out before then,
Oh,
anyone who wants
yeah.
to come, get online. Yeah,
That's brilliant.
uh, London Jazz Festival and get yourself a ticket. Come in. I think it's
Jazz
first
is
come. Yeah,
Jazz has always seemed like a precursor, and this is something that we've touched on other conversations and interviews, and especially when you're looking at like the kind of electronic influence and you know kind of what Sun Ra was doing was the precursor to drum and bass in that type of way, or is very much part a carriage on the same connected train in
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
type of way. Really, that kind of that vision of the future, and that there's a hopefulness as well of just kind of smashing down any type of rules, and that, look, anything is possible in that type of way. And keeping your mind open, I guess, really, kind of, you know, overarching themes on a really, really kind of broad level.
Well, I think through my experiences, you know, people like what they like, don't they? Do you know what I mean? And some people they like cheese and that's all they eat.
That's a brilliant clip. I
Sorry,
will leave it there.
I should have, oh honey. No, let's say honey. The cheese.
There's other
People
connotations
like
there.
yeah, the connotation with cheese. People like honey, they go taste honey and they're like, they want to eat it every day. They want to eat it every day. They want to eat it every day. But yeah, you've got all these different jams or you know, these different flavors, you know, that you can try. But you want the honey. You want your honey, yeah. Because that's what you like. That's what you used to. I want my honey. Give me my. And I think that a lot of people have that attitude towards music. It's like they like what they like. They like their honey. I know, that's it. Fine.
Yeah.
You know what? I like honey and some.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I like. Yeah. I'm really interested. I'm interested in all different aspects of the voice. So whether it's opera, if you could, that's what you want to call it, or whether it's you know, emceeing, drama based, singing, drama, you know, whether it's poetry, whether it's anything to do with the voice. I'm really, my ear gravitates to it, you know, and I love that. And it's the same with music, you know. I love all different types of music. Um, and and again, that's probably coming through my dad, you know, in that line,
Yeah.
because I mean, again, you know, I heard as a child, I spent most of my early years by the radio as a kid. And I'm soaking all this up. And what's on the radio? I'm hearing everything. I'm hearing the Beatles. I'm hearing everything. Everything.
Yeah.
Because back then on the radio, you heard all kinds of stuff, right? I'm saying right, but you weren't around.
Well, I guess I mean no, but I mean I was thinking that
But
there
you know what I
wasn't,
mean?
and it was. I mean, largely you would have been kind of fed a lot of rock, and you would have been listening to kind of white broadcasters, and I guess like people
White
like
broadcasters,
Tony
yeah,
Blackburn, and you know, kind of people like
yeah.
that, who were
But
kind of
also, but yes, but also, I had my dad's influence because my dad would be playing
yeah,
Oscar Peterson or Ray Charles or do you know what I mean? I was hearing all that stuff. And on top of that, the school that the primary school that I went to before Brookhouse, we had a teacher there who I'm still in touch with. We spoke on the previous interview about this, I think.
wow, you're still in touch with your
I'm
teacher.
still in touch with my primary school teacher that came down from Devon when she was about 18, right,
Wow.
to teach kids, right? She would. She actually said to me recently, "Oh, I actually brought the Love Supreme album and I played it in the class, the John Coltrane Love Supreme album, and I played it in the class for us."
Brilliant.
I was 7 or 8 years old,
Wow. Brilliant.
right?
What a
So
teacher. What a teacher.
oh man,
Yeah.
she's Georgina Hawkins. She's just the best. And so, and then, so there's that. And then assembly times, we would have to sit in silence and listen to classical music. Bach, Beethoven, Stravinsky, Mozart. In silence as kids, we'd have to sit in silence and listen to this music. So
Wow.
all this stuff is all going in. I don't, you know, subconsciously, it's all going
Mm.
in. So it all becomes. And again, you know, I'm understanding why I do what I do. It's because of the environment that I've been around all my life.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
through the
influences as well, like your
and
teacher
influences, yeah,
there. Because I mean,
exactly,
one of the last things that you
exactly.
did, one of the last things that we kind of signed out with was that you were just preparing. I think the next thing you had to do was go. You were giving a talk on Thelonious Monk, you know, and your job as a professor, as a teacher, and things like that. Really, so
Oh,
teaching as well has
yes.
also been a hugely significant part of your
Oh,
schedule, of
yeah,
your output, and
yeah.
how you conduct yourself in the musical multiverse in that type of way. Teaching is a really powerful thing that, you know, is important to what you do, isn't it? Just as much as
Oh, it's
performing.
it's it absolutely 100% because it informed you as well because each one teach one. You know, you learn from younger students and people. You know what they're into. You know, I always and you're able to impart as well. You know, you're able to share things. You know, and you're able to help them avoid some of the pitfalls in the industry. You know, because a lot of my teaching and talks is based around that as well. You know, just telling people that you know you can do it. Think about it. Maybe you might want to think about it this way. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
because most young artists they want they want the big deal. You know, they want the this and that and but and that's cool. You know, that's a way, but there's other ways as well. You know, there's other ways that you can build a career and
yeah.
yeah, just being able to share these things with younger students is a blessing I feel and a joy, and
Mm.
it keeps me sharp as well. You know, it keeps me fresh. You know, it's just like I know the young singers that are coming up. You know, that are doing things that I've been working with and helping. You know, and it's great to see that. You know, some of them coming through.
Yeah.
now,
Keeps you
so
tuned in, doesn't it? It keeps you
yeah,
inspired and it keeps you tuned in. And I think it
yeah.
takes age out of the question then in that type of way. And it's something that I'm finding is more and more important, running one more thing and having, kind of people who I'm mentoring and part of the team who are like, half my age. And that age diversity, that power between two, three generations, all sharing ideas, sharing experiences, sharing thoughts, and sharing their favorite records and reference points, that creates something really magical, which I didn't really see coming in that way, even though I should have done, having inherited all of my musical DNA from my father in that way. And
Mm,
knowing, I'm really blessed that I knew where that DNA had come from. And I, can remember sitting with him and he would play to, he was a youth worker. So he'd be doing, kind of discos and stuff and arranging his music for that. So these are really early core memories for me as well. But it took me by surprise when I realized the power of generations, and it's happening now within kind of drum and bass, within sun and bass, when we were talking, like, there are people as young as 17, 18. I think probably the oldest person I had on my interviews would have been, kind of like maybe someone, one of the pioneers like Groove or something like that. And then one of the youngest who's a DJ, Dan from Space Cadet's son. And he just turned 18. And that age range that we have is so exciting, really, isn't it? And that bringing together the generations, I think, that's one of the most powerful things that is happening really in any type of culture, is when you've got several generations sharing in that way.
absolutely. I mean, we live in a society that kind of throws older folks sort of under the bus when they reach a certain age, and it's just so wrong. It's not. It's not who we really are as. That's not the humanistic thing,
Mm,
Ben, to do. If you look at some older, some of, the cultures where we come from, for instance, the African culture, it's there's a respectability for the elder folk, the elders.
mm,
There's a to have an elder speak and share their history and their experiences is so valid in society, and it's so important, and it's just sad that we don't understand that it's the interaction of the different generations is important.
yeah,
The coming together of the young and the old is what really fuels innovation and creativity and
yeah,
imaginations. When you're able to speak like a child, even at this age, my age, to still. I mean, I still have the same kind of enthusiasm that I've always had for music, and this it's
yeah,
not changed. I'm just still interested and fascinated with AI, even. I mean,
yeah,
even that gets a lot of kickback from a lot of people. Oh man, it's going to do this, but that's what we hear all the time with technology. Oh, CDs are going to do this, and tapes are going to do that, and vinyl's going to, But it's always going to be about the mind of the creative and what they're going to do with it, what they want, what their intent is with
yeah.
the technology. A hammer, you can bang nails or you can smash someone's head in with a hammer. It's what do you want to do with the hammer? What are you going to do with AI? Are we going to do with any of these
Yeah.
technologies? It's like, I mean, now, I was hearing on the news that some poor couple got scammed. Someone used an AI voice and said that it was their nan or something like that, and used their nan's voice, and they got scammed through
Wow.
the. I mean, this is where we are now, So,
Yeah.
but
That's the
again,
dark side of it. But I think you
yeah,
used the word like fascination, and that ability to go back to that almost childlike sense of wonder. It is a blessing if we've been able to maintain that, and that is something that I've always admired of you and any of my kind of older peers who I look up to within creativity, is that It's because you do see so many people getting jaded, and kind of quitting or taking a different path because they're just so jaded and so cynical. So there's the word fascination and keeping that kind of wonder and that sense of, especially in terms of AI. I mean, it blows the mind what AI is capable of. When you think about that,
Oh
you're
man.
putting in prompts and it's coming back with stuff like the speed of that computing and stuff. It's absolutely mind blowing. And for all of the darker side, when it's in somebody creative's hand, just like a sampler would have been, just like any musical instrument would have been over time. It's what that person wants to do with it is the most
I
important
mean,
piece.
I honestly believe that we're going to hear some incredible music with AI in the hands of like real creatives. We're
Mm.
going to hear and see some amazing things. But yeah, we're going to get the other side as well because this is the world that we live in. You know, it's the world we live in, that dimension where people are going to take things and abuse them and use them for darkness and destruction.
Mm. And all we need to do is kind of push the positive side. And it's something that, and I am wrapping up now, is something that I've noticed that you do with a lot of your messages that you put out to the world, and you use social media in an incredibly informative and educational way, is focusing on the light and pushing the light as much as you can. And I mean, you've said it, and I notice it in a lot of people who I look up to and take reference points from, is love is the key, really. And I've noticed that that's been a theme of a lot of consistency of what you've been saying, especially more and more recently. But I mean, people do take there's good and there's evil in the world. So if we shine a light on the good, and as much of that as possible, a positive influence leads to a positive influence. I am my positive self with anything I put out into the world. I try not to be negative because I want to see more positivity. And I think, that's the responsibility of anybody who wants to see more light and wants to see us make light of all of these wonderful things, because they are fundamentally can be wonderful or used for wonderful things, is focusing on the light and the love and the positive, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a choice. It's a choice at the end of the day. We we wake up, and regardless of how you're feeling or what's going on around your world, you still have the ability to choose how you want to navigate your day. And I think just over the last 4 years or so, coming out of COVID and coming out of that, and just having so many family and friends transition um, from this plane, you just get to a place where every moment becomes precious. Every second becomes precious, and you just you know you really start to value time because it's not given. Like that I'm going to last the rest of this day. It's just such fact. Any of
Yeah.
us. So when you come to that understanding and realization in life that nothing's it's not guaranteed, that it's not. So you start to value things, and you start to force you to think about what you're doing. What kind of legacy you're leaving, what kind of how do you want to how do you want to be, because you can choose. That's a
Yeah.
choice. How do you want to function in your environment and your society? And I think that we do need more. We do need to bring out more of the light within ourselves, all of us, because it's in all of us. So it's the light is in all of us. It's just that we darken it through our own actions, our own thoughts and feelings and whatnot. And it's just trying to find a way of breaking through that those clouds, and just shining your light and just allowing that um, to guide you, at the end of the day, to let that be your guide, to let that
Yeah.
light be the thing that brings more and attracts more,
Yeah.
just allowing that, just it's and again, yeah, it's all to do with choices,
Yeah, it's
it's,
letting the positive one be in the dominant voice, because there are many
yeah,
different voices in your
yeah,
head, or many different paths you could take, decisions or opinions you could take, or
absolutely,
ways you could react to a
absolutely,
scenario, and letting the positive
absolutely,
one be the dominant voice or the louder
yeah,
volume.
exactly, and that's it, but there's so many things that affect that, you see,
Mm,
if we're talking about, we get onto, like, yeah, of course, if you have a moment, there's so many things flashing through your mind at any given moment. There's so many thoughts, so many voices. Oh, this, that, da, 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 yada, 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 boom, 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 yep, 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 yep. But who are you listening to?
yeah.
Who am I really listening to? Am I listening to my ego self? My narcissistic self. My, you know, yeah. Which side? Who am I listening to? So yeah, it's a daily, moment by moment decision that we make, that we have, how we're going to be,
Totally.
how we want to speak, how we want to be, you know.
And
And
that brings us really nicely full circle to how you said at the start, when you're talking about being in the moment, really, and being present, and making sure that all of you is really kind of present within that moment. So thank you
yeah.
for being present for this hour, and I think it's been about an hour and 15 minutes or so.
Oh wow. Oh, thank you, Dave. It's always a pleasure, man. And I love that you give me this kind of extended platform to just talk about these things.
It
All
always feels like
things.
we're scratching the surface. It always feels like we're scratching the surface. And I think, I hope that we have many more of these conversations. And I was going to ask, where are you shining your light next? You mentioned the London Jazz Festival,
It's
which I'm going to
it's
look
actually,
into.
yeah, the London Jazz Festival. What else am I doing? Again, I'll have to look at my diary. I know that's imminent. That's in November, which is coming around the corner. Um, but yeah, that's kind of, what else am I doing? Oh, I can't even think though. But yeah, London Jazz Festival, Milton Court, 23rd, Sun Ra, Reimagine. It's free as well, so no excuses.
Yeah. I'm going to try and come
Yeah,
down to that if I can. If that's on a
yeah.
weekend, which I imagine it will be, then
I
hopefully I
believe it
can.
is. Yeah, I
Brilliant.
believe it is on Saturday.
Excellent. Well, Cleveland, thank you so much for joining me for this interview. Hope you have a wonderful week, and I will speak to you again really, really soon. But take care, man.
Oh,
Thank you.
thanks, Dave. Thank you, man. Peace, bro.
Awesome.